Thank you for joining us. We will be discussing BHP, which is one of the largest mining companies in the world with a reach spanning several countries. The major ethical and sustainability issues that BHP face that relate to the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals include climate change and the impact thereof on life, on land and water. Climate change has the potential to increase the likelihood and severity of risks to physical life on Earth. These can include acute risks that are event-driven or chronic risks that are resulting from longer-term changes. As BHP is a large mining company, the machinery in which they operate poses a direct impact on climate change. It is possible to experience failure of water or storage facilities, unplanned fire events, or the planned explosions, all of which can increase the harming of the environment. The air, ground, and marine transportation which carries peoples, supplies, or products can damage the surroundings. Failure to address these risks and investor concerns of climate change will impact the way BHP operates in the future and would imply that BHP cannot adjust to meet the standards of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. BHP manages to address many of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The main focus is upon Goals 6, 13, 14, and 15, which promote the company vision of a healthy environment and decarbonisation.
To help create a healthy environment, BHP is having at least 30% of the land and water under company stewardship in conservation, restoration, or regenerative practices. They want to focus on areas of highest ecosystem value, both within and outside their operational footprint. They will work in partnership with Indigenous peoples and local communities to have the best possible environmental outcomes. There have been a commitment to work pertaining to the impact of life in land and water. In regard to water, BHP collaborated with Oldendorff and Goodfuels to take part in the first marine biofuel trial with a natural gas-powered ocean-going vessel. BHP also issued a world-first tender for natural gas-fueled bulk carrier vessels to be used for iron ore transportation. The tender was awarded to Eastern Pacific Shipping with a natural gas supply to be procured from Shell. There has also been a significant work done, not only to reduce emissions, but to help with the conservation of natural fauna and flora. In 2016, BHP undertook rehabilitation of the Cattle Gorge ore body. Work involved installing artificial bat caves as part of an ongoing closure works across Yarrie iron ore projects. Commonly called bat motels, these structures are designed to accommodate multiple significant bat species, such as the Pilbara leaf-nosed bat, to coexist thanks to a nested design. For their work in conservation, BHP won a Golden Gecko, an award which commemorates environmental excellence in the mining sector. An aspirational goal to reach climate change targets by 2030. The goal provides opportunities for BHP to engage and work in partnerships with others to build capability and co-design approaches which will deliver positive outcomes and share prosperity for people and our planet. This goal includes a 30% reduction in operational greenhouse gas emissions and supports a 40% emission reduction in BHP chartered shipping of their products. They aim to support development of technologies and pathways capable of 30% emission reduction in integrated steelmaking as well. Some examples of the continued commitment to climate change is an announcement made in financial year 2021, where BHP partnered with China Baowu, JFE, and HBIS, with a commitment to invest up to $65 million in research and development of steel decarbonization pathways. They've also established a research program with the University of Newcastle in Australia to study raw material properties in low carbon iron and steelmaking.
The issues identified in the relevant Sustainable Development Goals, in particular SDG 13 on climate change, and that on which BHP reports development are in line. Main themes around greenhouse gases, the decarbonisation of our economy, and concerns around the availability, quality, and conservation of fresh water are recurring. The most recent annual report provides clarity around the company's goals for both the current year and the future, and provides clear measurable actions and outcomes to these goals. For instance, the report titled Bringing People and Resources Together to Build a Better World confirms that BHP has to date exceeded its short-term target of maintaining certain greenhouse gas emissions to either the same or below those reported in 2017. In this report, the company reported emissions 15% lower than 2017 as of June 22. A longer-term goal is to get to net zero. This goal is set for 2050, and BHP is currently working with its suppliers and other business partners to reduce emissions and engaging in projects that increase carbon storage through conservation, restoration, and improved management of the land on which they operate. To stimulate the carbon markets in Australia, BHP launched a grants program to fund emerging blue carbon projects. BHP has also successfully completed its first carbon-neutral nickel mining transaction in the United States and have expressed interest to further their uptake of similar projects. When considering the need for use and protection of the water in the various countries that BHP operates, there is extensive evidence that the company has assessed the current and potential risks around water usage. For instance, to mitigate any potential damage to the environment by way of contamination, or perhaps change in water availability, the company has several projects and plans in place with the hope of developing mining practices that will see a reduction in the amount of water required to process product at their sites. The company also identifies that they've got a social responsibility to consider the waterworks in the country in which they operate, and will take on projects to assist the local communities in ensuring clean, safe, and sustainable waterworks. The above commitments by BHP should be considered to be successful based on the below reported metrics. BHP contributed to improved management of approximately 8 million hectares of land. Fresh water withdrawal has surpassed its 15% reduction target for the last 3 years. Scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions have been decreasing for the last 3 years, and Scope 1 GHG emissions have decreased by 25% in the last year. An average of 15% reduction in operational greenhouse gas emissions year on year. Further to this, BHP reports no significant environmental events arising from their activities. Most interesting of all is the fact that these results, which are of course only a small portion of the complete sustainability report, were still achieved despite a significant increase in revenue and profit.
BHP's business strategy consists of structured and specific planning and/or management for different departments. The company handles business practices with strict guidelines and procedures and specific to department audits, inspection, or technical reviews. This ensures BHP minimises risks and follows the correct pathways to meet the intended goals. In the report, BHP displays many strategies they use. For example, BHP explains that their risk classification strategy, we classify all risks to which BHP is exposed using our group risk architecture. This is a tool designed to identify, analyze, monitor, and report risk, which provides a platform to understand and manage risks. BHP demonstrates their desire to understand, monitor, and set goals. Similarly, BHP uses their same action plans to eliminate possible neglect to their social and ethical responsibilities. BHP explains strategies for successful relation to their company and social responsibility, conducting regular research and impact assessments for operated assets to better understand the social, environmental, human rights, and economic context. This supports us to identify, analyze stakeholder, community, human rights impacts, including modern slavery risks and emerging issues. In order to come to a reasonably accurate assumption of BHP's performance in regards to its sustainability reporting, we visited the company website to extract the relevant reports, and we reviewed the UN website for information around the SDG of climate change that we allocated to assess BHP on. The UN website has very clear information on what it believes specific sectors should be incorporated into their operating model and plans in order to be considered active in the SDG space. In conclusion, we believe that BHP is well positioned to continue to meet its sustainable development goals. It is evident that BHP has created a balanced report that aligns with the UN industry matrix expectations of taking urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. The information provided was easy to understand, objectives were clearly defined, and the targets, as well as the progress of the company in reaching its goals, were quantifiable against its targets and previous year's performance.
Tips for young players would be to look for information that is quantifiable in the reports. This information should include a representation of the historic data. This will give an indication of the robustness of the goals set. The company may be setting itself targets that it historically achieved as a box-ticking exercise. Another key point would be to familiarize yourself with the various SDGs, as well as any articles that are published on the UN or company sites. This will give an indication as to what projects the company's peers are investing in, for instance, the trading of carbon credits, which is currently a buzz in the market. Thank you for your time today. The panel will be available to answer any questions that you may have. We will also be providing the group with a copy of our final report for reference. This will be emailed shortly.